We have a fabulous agenda today. We're going to hear from Claudia about Food Recovery Week and how we can all help do outreach to get out the word. And then also about some new updates from EPA on the database of resources. Then we'll hear from Beth and Taft and Charday about the Teaming Up on Food Waste Challenge. And we'll end with some more updates from anybody who has them, or we'll end early and send ourselves out into the world. So this is being recorded. We'll cut the part that we've just been through, but I'm so glad that we did it. And I will turn it over to Claudia.
Sure. All right, Food Recovery Week is coming up October 12th to 17th. As I think most of you probably know, we partnered with Manna and Community Food Rescue up in Montgomery County, Maryland, which has been a really great partnership. They've done like a lot of the media outreach stuff. We've actually secured some media sponsors. We have Radio 1, which is Magic 102.3, Praise 104.1, and WKYS as the official radio partner. So I think there might be some interviews next week. I think they're working on some other media sponsorship, potentially TBD. So yeah, so it's been really, really great to partner with Cheryl and her team. In terms of the events, so we have, I think it's 9 events from October 12th to 17th. They are all free and they are all virtual except for one, which is a farm tour on that Saturday, October 17th. But they're all virtual classes. We have like food preservation classes. We have a panel discussion with food rescue orgs in the area. We have Caroline's improvisational cooking office hours. We have Josh's class on edible alternatives, which are parts of food you grow or buy that you don't normally think of eating. We have Rachel's Eat or Toss class. I'm teaching a class with Amanda from WWF about kids and food waste. We have a community compost training and a nose to tail and leaf to root cooking class. So registration numbers are looking pretty good. We have anywhere from like 12 to 64 registered participants per event. I mean, we know that there's always people who, register for stuff and then don't show up. So it's definitely, the numbers won't be as high as registration, but it's still looking good at this point because we still have over 10 days until the first event. So I guess my ask to this group, we do not need to be doing media outreach. That like Manna has hired a group that specifically work on that, but it would be really great to just continue to get the word out on social media, on any newsletters or listservs or Facebook groups that you're part of. I put it out on Nextdoor today, but we're all in different neighborhoods. So posting it on Nextdoor, you can really reach a lot of people. And actually last year, I remember that several people did say they heard about it on Nextdoor. So yeah, I mean, if people can just share the email I sent to the group has a little bit of language, but really if you just go to dmvfoodrecovery.org, you can like lift the paragraph, the summary paragraph off of that website and just share that link because all the events and their registration links are listed there. So definitely please continue to get the word out, especially if you can, send it to any like green neighbors listserv or zero waste listserv or food newsletter, anything that you have access to would be great to spread the word. I saw we already were covered in the Slow Food recent newsletter. And I think, Josh, did you put it in the Doug newsletter?
Yeah, it's got a permanent spot in the Doug newsletter.
Awesome. Great. So yeah, any outreach you can do within your networks would be great, but please don't do media outreach because Manna is paying a firm to do that. So we don't want to duplicate and like be reaching out to the same media contacts they are. If you have any questions about like that, just feel free to email me and we can make sure that you're not, duplicating any efforts that that Cheryl's team is already doing. Does that make sense? Does anyone have questions?
The Radio 1 interview, I think, is next Wednesday at 3 p.m.
Awesome.
Once that we get some official information, we can have her, it'd be great if people can kind of promote that on their networks.
Yeah. And we've been tweeting about it and posting on Facebook, so you can also share those posts. And I think the email I sent to the Google group in the last 10 days or so had the social media post language that, if you have access to like a comms team or someone in your organization who does that, you can just provide them with that document and they can use that to create their posts. So yeah, just please continue to get the word out. There's like a lot of information and a lot of, we're all very distracted by the news cycle, I'm sure. So it's hard to get additional information in front of people, but we're doing our best. So that's it. Anyone have questions? And I'll put the okay. All right.
Claudia, I
Yeah.
had a question for you, which is we had talked about like just amping. I know you've been doing a lot on the food recovery working group, like or social media as well. I'm wondering if there's anyone else, I'm volunteering myself, but if there's anyone else who wanted to join with me in like really some stuff that week so that other folks can retweet or pictures from like screenshots from the events. I don't know. Just thinking that we could do some and have people sharing their food recovery stories as well. So I will follow up about you, but I wanted to just offer that if there's anybody else who wanted to do a little social media that week.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I mean, I'm not able to join all of the events.
Right, yeah.
So I won't be able to like cover the events for social media, definitely by myself. Like I'll probably just attend a handful. So yeah, let's talk for sure. And anyone can tweet or post on Facebook from your personal accounts and tag us, and then we can retweet and share your posts as well. Cool.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks.
Should we move on to presentations?
I think that sounds great.
Okay, let me share my PowerPoint. And I forget, does Zoom let you do like presenter view or no?
No.
Okay.
Well, you
that's fine.
actually, you can try it. I don't think so.
I thought there was a way to do it, but it's okay.
Oh,
Just
actually,
let me
yeah,
know.
look, present online. Now it is an option.
You can share your content at the bottom. It's the green button with an arrow.
Yeah, that just puts it in regular mode, but.
Okay, I just put it in presenter mode, but you guys can still only see my slide, right?
Yep, that's right.
Awesome. Okay, so there is that option. You just right click once you've pulled up your presentation into the slideshow.
Thank you, thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I will make this pretty quick, but I wanted to share about EPA's Excess Food Opportunities Map. This is a national tool that EPA released in 2018, and we've been updating it ever since then. And I just wanted to sort of give you a taste of how this tool can potentially help you in your food recovery efforts. So I don't think I need to talk too much about why food waste is a problem. I just wanted to say, EPA has obviously been working on the issue of food waste for a while. And several years ago, we were starting to hear from our partners that it would be really great to have some understanding of like the national landscape of food waste. Where is it being created? Where can it be processed or donated? How much is being created per, establishment or location? And there were some state maps that had started to sort of map that out. And so we decided that it would be really helpful to do a national map. And in order to really connect people who potentially, businesses, organizations, institutions who potentially have excess food with potential users of excess food. And I'll talk about who those people are as well. But the idea here is really, let's facilitate some of these connections and opportunities to, make the best use out of food and keep it from being discarded to landfills or incinerators. So I'm going to show you some screenshots of the map, but before that, I just want to talk a little bit about what is in the map. So we have almost 1.2 million excess food generating establishments. And those are the types of establishments that could potentially have food waste or excess food. So those are, you know, schools, universities, prisons, food manufacturers, grocery stores, wholesalers, hospitals, hotels, restaurants, fast food and regular restaurants. And so we basically got information for 1.2 million of those in the US and mapped those. On the recipient side, what we talk about as potential excess food recipients are food banks, anaerobic digestion facilities, and composting facilities. We also mapped the communities that have food scrap pickup or source separated organics collection programs. So that's like an overview of what is in the map. I don't want to spend too much time on this because this is definitely in the weeds, but I just wanted to mention, so let me go back. In terms of what's in the map, besides the fact that these locations are mapped, when you click on each location, you'll get the, you know, like the address, the contact information, but for all the generators, you'll also get estimates of how much excess food they might create every year. So that's a big part of this map is that data. And I also want to note on the recipient side, so even though we mapped all of these anaerobic digestion and composting facilities, a lot of them do not currently take food waste. A lot of them take other types of organics, but we wanted to map them all, first of all, because that's sort of a useful map to have anyway, but also because, you know, they might change what kind of feedstock they accept in the future. So just because they're not taking food waste this year doesn't mean that, you know, they might take food waste next year. But I just wanted to note, like, it's not a guarantee that just because they're in the map that they actually take food waste right now. And one more note I wanted to make here, as I'm sure you're all aware, I mean, the data we originally got for this map was from Feeding America for food banks. So we cover about 300 Feeding America food banks and some of their partner distribution organizations. There are thousands and thousands more food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, and all kinds of other organizations. So we are working on obtaining a much bigger national data set of those types of establishments, because we know that, you know, Feeding America is just one, you know, network of food banks, and they are the biggest, but there are lots of other locations that could potentially take donated food. And we're working on getting that added right now. So I'll very briefly touch on this. I mean, you might be wondering, okay, so how did EPA calculate how much food waste any one business or institution might produce? And we basically did this giant literature search to understand, like, what studies have been done per industry about how much food waste is being generated at each of these types of establishments. So we might have like 10 studies that talk about how much food waste on average is produced in a grocery store. And then those types of studies would then generate an equation like this, like the example that you see at the bottom of this slide. So this is an example from the Food Waste Reduction Alliance, and it's an estimate based on surveys and studies of how much food waste food manufacturers and processors generate every year. And what they do is they do these studies and then they correlate them to business statistics like number of employees or revenue or something like that. So this example, for example, is for manufacturers and processors, for every dollar revenue, they generate 0.053 pounds food waste. So then what we have to do is we have to get revenue data for all the manufacturers and processors. We plug that in, and that's how you would come up with an estimate of how much excess food is generated for that particular establishment. So I just, you know, I can get really into the weeds here, but I wanted to just give you a sense of how we come up with that. So when you see an estimate in this map, it may or may not be close to reality. So you just have to keep that in mind. Like, it is just an estimate based on these nationwide studies. Okay, so what does the map actually look like? This is a screenshot of parts of Northeast and some of Northwest DC. And this shows here I've decided to look at hospitals and hotels and food wholesale and retail. So you can see like what the icons look like. If I had chosen like every type of generator, you wouldn't, like, the map would just be totally covered in icons, of course, because there's 1.2 million in the nation. So there's, you know, it's like every type of potentially food waste generating business or institution is in this map. And then here's like a different view of the greater Washington, D.C. area. And here I've chosen to view, you can see on the right in the layer list what I've checked off. I've chosen to view composting facilities, anaerobic digestion facilities, food banks, and then those communities that have the source separated organics pickup programs, or like food scrap collection programs. So I just wanted to give you like a very brief overview and show you kind of what the map looks like. That's actually all I have because I wanted to be quick and allow time for other presentations and stuff. But I also just want to talk a little bit about how you can use the map, because that's kind of, this is where I want like the juices to be flowing, and where I want things to be helpful, you know, where this could be a potentially helpful tool for you. So obviously this is a place where like a potential, you know, someone who's looking for feedstock, like someone who might be thinking about developing a composting facility or an anaerobic digestion facility or something like that, could use this map to get a sense of like, where might there be sources of feedstock for that operation? Or a farmer who might be looking to connect with a business to get animal feed. It can also be used by those businesses who generate food waste to, you know, get an idea of where are there facilities that they could partner with to, you know, take that food waste and keep it out of landfills. So really the idea here is look at the landscape, think about opportunities, and facilitate partnerships through being able to find each other on this map. I think, you know, when COVID hit, we were also thinking about other ways the map could be used. For example, you might be able to use this map to find facilities that have like unused kitchen space or unused refrigerator space, or trucks that could be used to transport food, like catering facilities, for example. So, you know, there was an uptick of use in the map when COVID first struck, because people were sort of looking for different types of infrastructure and different types of businesses to partner with that they might not have, you know, been looking for before. The other thing I want to say for any of you that are like GIS people, and I'm not really, I have other people on my team who do that, but all of this data can be downloaded. So all of the data with the all 1.2 million establishments and their information and the estimates of excess food per establishment, all of that can be downloaded, as well as all the GIS files. So one of the ways we've actually seen this tool being used a lot is by like a county or a food policy counselor or something working in a certain area who wants to make their own map that includes some of the information we have in our map. So you could take our data and you could overlay it with like socioeconomic data or food pantry data or farm data or community compost. I mean, it's like endless the amount of things you could do if you were, you know, just if you wanted to overlay some of this data with other data that's relevant to you. So I've seen, for example, like I've seen counties take like some of the data from this map and then overlay it with like hunger or socioeconomic indicators in order to help them figure out like where are the gaps, you know, where might we be able to, you know, move food into donation, or where might we be able to like put, you know, where's their need that's not being met, for example. So there's lots of different ways the data can be downloaded and used. And hopefully that, you know, might get you all thinking about how it could be helpful for you or the organizations you work in. I think that's all I wanted to share. So if anybody has questions, feel free. There's also lots of accompanying documents. There's a technical methodology, FAQs, a user guide. And yeah, the map is available for anyone to use at epa.gov/foodmap. That's all I got.
Thanks so much, Claudia. Does anyone have any questions for Claudia?
This is Cassie from FRN. I just wanted to make a comment that FRN has used this data exactly as you described it, Claudia, of overlapping this data with the USDA's food insecurity data to specifically identify communities and states that we want to prioritize for our programming, to where those gaps are the largest. So I just wanted to say thanks, because that's been really helpful in our work, and directly how we've been able to prioritize certain states and communities throughout the US for our programming.
That's awesome. And I think I remember you touching on that in your presentation last month. And I wanted to follow up because I love hearing about use cases for this map. I don't always get feedback. I don't always know who's using it and how they're using it unless they specifically reach out to them or to me. So it's great to hear that. I'm really glad that it was helpful for you. And I'm always like trying to collect examples of how this is being used. And this is a tool that we're trying to continually improve. So open to feedback, open to any ideas. If you poke around and you say, hey, why doesn't it do this? Or it could do this or whatever, just feel free to reach out.
Cool, that's great, I will, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Claudia, this is really cool. Have you guys been able to ground truth the data like at a very local level for just a couple test cases? I mean, this looks like a very rich data set. I do find sometimes with national data sets, I mean, even that you buy just to use like locally or regionally, right? There's a little bit of lag in terms of like what's happened on the ground. So like that grocery store is actually no longer open type of a thing.
Yeah. That's always a problem with a data set of this size. I mean, especially after 2020, like I'm struggling with how to do the next update because
that's my next question.
If like 40% of restaurants in the US shut down, then 40% of the restaurants in that map are no longer operational. So the current data on the generator side is from 2018. And then on the recipient side, like the AD and composting data is a little bit more recent than that. It's more like early 2019, but it is a struggle in terms of just keeping everything up to date. Businesses are always opening and closing. Institutions, not as much, like schools tend to, stay where they are, but it is definitely a challenge. So I'm glad you raised that. I don't have like a magic bullet. I mean, it's just, anytime you're dealing with a data set this big, it's a bear and it's going to be outdated the second you post it. That being said, it's hopefully still a useful tool, but it's not like we have a way to constantly be updating it. Like we don't have a way to have it like automatically get rid of businesses that have closed. Like there's just kind of no way to do that. So we download these big data sets basically every couple years, but I have to say I haven't done it in 2020 because the landscape is changing so much. I kind of want to like wait a little bit for the dust to settle. Yeah. So I think we're probably not going to be downloading the data sets on the generator side for, I would say, a solid year. I would probably wait because it costs a lot of money to get that data. And I don't want to buy it at a point where it's kind of still, everything's changing a lot. So I'm glad you asked that question though, because that's a real challenge with this kind of thing.
It seems like a great resource.
Yeah, thank you, Claudia, and to your whole team for the work in making that happen. If you have any other questions for Claudia, feel free to put them in the chat. You can also just chat Claudia directly with them, and we are going to hand presentation over to Beth and the Teaming Up on Food Waste team. It looks like we have Sharday and Taft on the line. So thanks so much, Beth.
Hi, I think I'm not able to share my screen.
One second. How about now?
Let's see. I mean, I can always just start by saying how awesome it is to be here today. Here we go. Got it. Hello. So I'm just here to kind of open the presentation. I'm here with Sharday and Taft, who were kind of the some of our most active teammates on this project of the Let's Team Up on Food Waste at DC Ward 7 and 8 project. So some of you have seen this before because we had the opportunity to present to Sustainable DC, but I just wanted to start off by saying this was really a team effort. So this project was funded by Sustainable DC, and Caroline and her team were really instrumental in making it a collaborative effort where we got input from all sorts of different entities. Also, it was a team project, so the prime of the grant is actually Jeffrey Neal at Loop Closing, and so there were actually 2 pilots. I'm going to be talking about this action research project, but he also was the lead on getting an on-site composter installed at the ARC in Ward 8, and he'll be talking more about that, I think, next month. But that is also a very cool project that it takes all of the elements of the food waste hierarchy, because it's a partnership with DC Central Kitchen, and they're already using LeanPath to track and reduce their food waste. They're already doing the food recovery, and now we're adding this actually on site doing the food scraps recycling. So that's just a teaser for the other half of this project for next month. I also really wanted to say how much Claudia and the Food Too Good to Waste Network has been a really great resource. Part of the grant was actually doing research on other districts, and it's been really amazing the feedback and input that we've gotten. So if you're starting a project that has to do with food recovery and food waste, I would highly recommend reaching out to Claudia and through her, reaching out to those other resources. So with that, to give you a little bit of what is the project. So this came out of, many of you know me from being the recycling coordinator for DC Public Schools. Now I'm an independent consultant, and I work with schools, especially on helping students and staff do really meaningful and impactful action research projects. And we were going to do these things with the schools in April, but then COVID happened, and a couple of schools that I was working with were like, well, what can we do? And I said, well, let's maybe a remote thing. And fortunately, the EPA already had this kind of off-the-shelf challenge, and we took it and we gamified it and we ran it for a couple schools and whoever wanted to sign up in April. But this was kind of, this question was always at the back of my head, and also as I was working with the schools, is that, well, what if our families are facing challenges to food access and food security, and how does this messaging work for them? And I actually reached out to some of my principals who had been very active in doing these challenges, and they said, oh, Beth, the messaging you're using, we really can't send this out right now at COVID to our families. And that is a big problem, because it's a really good activity and beneficial to everybody, but if our messaging isn't working, then what should we do about that? So it turned out that Sustainable DC was also looking at the question of how do we get ideas for taking action from residents. And so this was a good match for the Community Actions Research Grant. And what we did was we took that kind of volunteer activity and we transferred it into more of an action research project, where we actually hired people from Wards 7 and 8 to do a research on themselves. And I did it too. So we all tracked our preventable food waste, and we provided reusable supplies. So we actually purchased from Plastic Tree supplies that had been used before. So we had a waste audit supply kit. Every week we had weekly meetings with some kind of lecture and discussion. We had a group me chat for everyone. And we also had 6 weeks of data collection. So one of the problems with volunteer efforts is you usually don't get 6 weeks of data collection. So it was a really kind of an in-depth study on ourselves. And to give you a little bit idea from a high level of what I learned, I definitely learned that, and this is something I'd love to discuss with all of you more kind of going forward, is how to change the messaging from being focused really on reducing food waste versus using the data on food waste to also help us make better decisions about nutrition and saving money. So thinking about how do we look at food waste and food access and nutrition together. Then we also learned, and this is, research action projects are really awesome at getting people to take action. So together we reduced our food waste by about 60%. A lot of my data sheets started coming in as no waste, 0, 0. Not, I mean, we can't all be 0 all the time, but it was fun to see how excited we were about getting to 0. And the other thing that kind of spontaneously happened, composting wasn't a requirement or, you know, really a thing that we were supposed to do. But once we start separating our food waste, we're like, well, can we compost it? So actually some of the people were neighbors, and we did a field trip as a class to one of the community cooperative sites. And now we're talking about, you know, what are the people are interested in taking advantage of some of those composting options. And also we got the opportunity to present to Sustainable DC and to share with you all. So with that, I'd like to just turn it over to Taft and Charday, who will share with you a little bit about their experience, and I can stop sharing my screen.
Hi, my name is Charday Yuri, and I participated in the Sustainable DC Food Challenge, Food Waste Challenge. And what I learned the most from the challenge was that I was not buying my food. I would say I was overbuying. I was buying food, overbuying food, and then the food wound up being waste. My kids were not put food away properly. So that became waste. I didn't have food stored properly in the refrigerator. That became waste. So I had a lot of waste in the beginning of the challenge. Towards the end of the challenge, I didn't have as much waste. I even had a zero baseline eventually. And then I also realized that going grocery shopping in DC, paying 5 cents for bags, I could have been saving a lot of money if I was using the reusable bags. And because in the grocery store, a lot of times they don't ask you if you want single bags. Sometimes they just double bag if you're getting like heavy items. I was having a lot of plastic bags that ended up becoming a lot of waste because I had no use for them other than putting them in maybe like the bathroom trash can, but that still was waste. So during the challenge, I was able to get my kids to be involved, and they actually were seeing how much they were wasting. And I kind of turned into like a competition, like, you know, I'm trying to win this competition and y'all wasting too much food. Look at all this food we wasted this week. Or, you know, we trying to get to 0. Let's try to get to 0. Like, eat all your food, don't waste your food, things like that. An incentive like that for them. And then I noticed too, if they ate a lot of snacks, of course, food became waste because they didn't want to eat it. They were throwing it in the trash, but then they saw that I was collecting the food as a waste. So then they were able to put it in the containers as well. And they wanted to be a part of the challenge. And I thought it was really cool because in them becoming engaged in the challenge, my daughter, for instance, she's 11, she shared with her best friend that, you know, trying to be mindful of not wasting food and how we were weighing the waste and how we were trying to be more, you know, mindful of the resources that we had in the household and not waste so much stuff. And, you know, her friend and her engaged in conversations about it. And she was like, yeah, we waste a lot of food in my house too. So that she was interested in trying to collect data as well. So I think it was really interesting just to see that as a parent, to see that, you know, your children, they always watching you, but they actually observing everything that you're doing and want to do the same thing that you're doing as well.
Thanks.
Hey, how everyone doing? This is Tav Barber. I got involved with Team Up Food Waste through Instagram. That's how I learned about it. And it was a thing I actually signed up because food waste have always been a challenge for me. And I felt it was an opportunity for me to hold myself accountable for just for the food waste. It's been very fun and interesting. I guess, like, you know, especially during these times, you don't have too many group interactions. So the weekly Mondays, that was pretty cool. And also the tips that we shared, and actually cut my food waste. Now, the thing I say about the holding me accountable thing, that was like it actually worked because, and I see now that I'm not more so fully engaged. Like I fell back on old habits. And one of those were buying too much, like not buying with meals in mind. So now I'm having that's one of the problems, and I reverted back to that. So it's just more so being conscious of what you're doing. I guess that's probably probably what's the major issue for me right now. But it definitely helped out during the challenge. I noticed a big change in my food waste and also how I started shopping. It's just I guess I may got ahead of myself and thought I had it, and this week has been a bad week for it. But knowing this half the battle, so.
Actually, so actually, Claudia, remember I asked you that question about the detailed question. Taft, do you want to share what you did about the watermelon rind?
Oh, okay, yeah. So when we first started the challenge, like the first week, I had a cantaloupe, and usually when I cut like cantaloupe or like melons, what I'll do is with the rind, I'll just eat as much off of it as I can and just throw the rest away. So this time I say, well, it'd be cool to figure out what I'm throwing away. So I scraped all the meat off the rind this time, and I noticed that I had there's a bunch of juice and there's a bunch of extra meat left. So the next time what I did was I had a watermelon and cut it up and did the same thing, but I actually squeezed pressed everything together and made juice. So that was one cool thing that I took away from the project.
So does anyone have any questions that you'd like to ask?
I do. Thank you, Sharday and Taft. I love hearing about people who've actually done these things in their own homes. I was wondering, for either of you, was there any surprises, when you started measuring what you were throwing out? Were you really surprised to see certain kinds of foods in there, or was it about what you thought? Oh yeah, I'm not great about using up X before it goes bad. Were there any surprises when you looked at your own food waste?
I know for me, I didn't realize how much food we were actually wasting. In the beginning of the challenge, I had 17 cups of food waste, and then towards the end of the challenge, I got down to 0. Or even I think one time I had a quarter cup of waste. It was very minimal. And so I realized that a lot of it was just me trying to make my kids more independent and responsible, having them doing the chores in the kitchen, realizing that they didn't, if they didn't want leftovers, they would leave the food out on purpose. My daughter hit a pack. So the only surprise I had was my daughter hit a whole pack of pot roast in the oven. It had potatoes and carrots and everything in it. And I kept trying to figure out where that pot roast went. I was like, they ate it all, because I fixed it for them and I wasn't home that evening. And so 2 days went by before I had to use the oven again. I went to turn the oven on, and I was like, "Ooh, what's that smell?"
Oh.
I looked in the oven. I turned the light on, looked in the oven, realized we had the pot roast in there. And actually, I had to throw the whole pot out because, of course, it had been sitting there for a while, so it had maggots in it. I was very pissed off about that. But that was probably my most shocking moment, because it actually put my waist back up higher for that week. I think I went up to 11 cups again that week, and then realizing that if I store foods properly in my refrigerator, especially in plain sight, instead of putting a small box of baking soda somewhere where you can't see, for example, not even just baking soda, a little small thing of lime juice, for example, was an example of waste that I had. It had expired. When I opened it up, it stank really bad. And so, just learning to put stuff in plain sight so that I could be able to see it, know to use it, realizing I need to take data of when I buy certain things so that I can use it when it needed to be used by, so it wouldn't go bad. That was actually a shocking, because I was just you're thinking oh, you go to the grocery store, this doesn't expire till next year, and then you open it up and realize maybe because the heat from the summer, it sped up the the expiration on the actual product, and then you realize, oh, you know, maybe if I store it somewhere else or store it properly, then I wouldn't have that issue. So I actually was able to save more too, money in the grocery store. And I realized that because I wasn't going shopping as much, because I started going shopping with the meals in mind, like Tash said. One of the team members suggested that, and once they suggested that, that really put me on point with reducing my food waste as well, because I was overbuying like 3 or 4 gallons of milk, and my kids will only drink like 1 gallon, use 1 gallon of milk. So then, you know, 2 other gallons of milk, you know, they all go bad on the same day. So it would be 2 or 3 gallons of milk that have to be food waste. So, you know, I've learned a lot about how to properly store my foods and buy smaller and saving money in the process.
Thank you.
Oh, I would say for me, it was surprising about like I'll say how much of the like bell peppers and onions that I throw away, because you know get down to the end and you just want to throw it away. But, you know, it's still a lot left to chop off. So that was one of the surprises to me. But as far as major surprises, not really. Probably one would be that I like unconsciously I had things in the refrigerator for myself. Like I just found them out of the blue, and it's like, whoa, this has been here the whole time. Or sometimes like I guess somewhat a thing of laziness on my part when I'm cleaning out, because I clean out my fridge a couple times during the food challenge, and I've missed like 2 or 3 things a couple times.
It sounds like from both of you that like being more organized and thoughtful when you go shopping was one of the things, and then also storing food properly, making sure your kids aren't hiding food they don't want to eat, which I'll remember for when mine get older. And yeah, it also sounds like in the process you also saved money because you were sort of, you know, using up more of what you bought. Yeah.
And the refrigerator cleaning out. So actually, I didn't tell anyone to clean out their refrigerator. Like, actually, I didn't tell anyone to do anything, really. I deliberately did not start talking about strategies until after, you know, the baseline week. And several people spontaneously decided to clean out their refrigerator. So Sade and Taft, do you want to share like why you decided to clean out your refrigerator? It's okay if not.
Well, I clean out
I'll
my
go
refrigerator
first.
before I go shopping. Oh, go ahead, Ty.
Oh no, Shari, go ahead.
I was saying I clean out my refrigerator before I go shopping, and because of the pandemic, I wasn't really going grocery shopping as much because I was trying to reduce the amount of time I go outside and interact with people, because for my household, all my kids have asthma, so it's a risk, you know, going out to the stores and then interacting with so many people, being around so many different people. So, but because I started shopping with, you know, meals in mind, I started going like to the grocery store once a week. So I wanted to make sure that every week that I still kept fresh produce in the house, of course, especially fruits and veggies for the kids to eat. And that was another thing I had converted over to fresh fruits and vegetables versus canned goods right before the challenge because of how much sodium is in the canned goods. And so realizing that fresh fruits and veggies don't have a lifespan is, you know, equivalent to the same as the ones that's in the can that's stored in the cabinets. I had to be more mindful of that too. And so I wasn't paying attention at first to like how bad lettuce was going, how bad my lettuce was going, my potatoes, because I kept the potatoes out on the counter for the most part. So just when I started organizing my refrigerator and started paying attention to certain things, I realized that I didn't really have to throw out as much as I was throwing out either when cleaning out the refrigerator. It was just, for me, if I cook something on Monday and it's Friday, then that's waste. Because my kids, you know, of course, it's been past 3 days, they're not going to eat it. So I just wanted to make sure that I kept my refrigerator clean as possible, especially because I didn't know if we were going to have to submit pictures of the refrigerator. I didn't want to have a dirty refrigerator. So yeah, that's it for me.
For me, the reason I cleaned out my refrigerator, I think maybe the 3rd week, I noticed I didn't have much waste. And when I looked at my fridge, I seen I had a couple things in there that needed to be thrown away. So that was one of the reasons I cleaned it out, pretty much. And it needed cleaning.
So I saw some questions from Caroline.
Yeah, I'll ask them.
Yeah.
But first, I guess following up on the fridge, did you feel like I saw some of the pictures of sort of you had then like reorganized your fridge afterwards? Did you feel like one, that it actually helped to have that reorganizing? And is that something I feel like my experience is often big reorganization of my fridge, but then 2 weeks later, it's back to where it was with like all the leftovers in the back. So how did you maintain your fridge?
That was for me.
Either of you?
I didn't do much of an organization in my refrigerator. I pretty much just put things in plain sight. I don't know. Yeah, I'm very bad at that. I'm not good with that. Organized.
Me neither. So that's fine. The other
Caroline,
question,
though, you know, what helped me keep my refrigerator organized was running this challenge.
fair enough.
So actually, before I did this, it was not organized. Now it is, and it's amazing because
That's good to know.
they held me accountable.
My other question is just, you know, in particular, this food recovery working group, we do a lot of different types of things. But in particular, the Food Recovery Week that is about to happen, and then a series of other sort of outreach activities throughout the year. And I'm wondering if you've looked at what's happening during Food Recovery Week, is there anything that you're most excited about? And if not, are there particular activities you think we could be offering or trainings? If we were to offer a training, what kind of thing would you be most excited about learning more about in the space, or in the space of making the most of your food?
I guess it's more so a thing where maybe more so where your food come from, because I got a good sense of food and what it's about, and you know what I'm saying, how it, you know, helps the body sustain itself, like how it helps the body. I'm not more so familiar with growing food. That's the area I'm not familiar with. So for me, it's probably, I guess, gardening. Like, so to get like more hands-on.
That's awesome. What about you, Sade?
For me, I'm probably just like the same as Taff with the gardening, because I don't have a green thumb. When we had to do plants for our moms for Mother's Day at school and stuff like that, I would be that child that didn't have nothing but dirt. So I think it's the same for me.
Yeah, I actually think there's an awesome connection there, in the sense that one of the best ways to have, you know, especially you were saying your lettuce was going bad. I feel like lettuce goes bad so fast, and it goes bad certainly less when it's still in the soil, out, whether that's in your kitchen or right outside. So yeah, that's a really neat connection. Thank you.
I have a question just generally, maybe this is for you, Beth, but what, I mean, this was sort of a pilot, right? So I'm kind of wondering what's next for this project, or what would you like to see happen?
Yeah, well, so we wrote a final report, so we're going to see what Caroline thinks about our recommendations on what's next. There's obviously, well, one thing that we are doing next that's directly coming from this project is Audubon Naturalist Society is one of the Aussie Garbology grant recipients. And so one of the things that we're doing is working with them to package as a challenge for schools and some lessons based on exactly what we did. So that's upcoming and exciting. But this the action research format is a really great way to get these types of ideas. So you could really do that. You could do this on energy, you could do this on water, you could do this on other topics. We also we could do a Spanish speaking one. You know, there's all sorts of ways that we could replicate the similar model. And I think one of the main messages that came out of all of our research from the other districts and what we did is that if you want to get more people involved, not just the people who volunteer to do things, then actually paying people to make like that long-term commitment to fully participating, it's like we all get more out of it. So like as the program, we get more out of it because people participate more, and then the participants get more out of it because it holds ourselves accountable. So even people, I mean, everyone's busy, right? So like if you, and the people have children, right? There's so many reasons why you wouldn't do a challenge like this, but when it's something that is a little more kind of like benefits the participants more, then we could reach a lot more people.
And is the challenge that'll be done through Audubon, is that aimed at kids or is it aimed at the whole families, but you're just getting to them through the schools?
Well, we're looking more at thinking of high school green team leaders. So it would be something that anyone could do. So just like the DC Reduce First challenge, like we had the booklet that says, or just like you have, anyone can do this challenge if you take this booklet, right? But this is also saying, well, we're going to package it for thinking of high school green team leaders. How would you lead this at your school, right? So it's going to be fun.
And also, I think you touched on this in the beginning a little bit, but can you just mention again, like what opportunities for all the challenge takers, or that you said it's 10 people, right, this time?
Yeah, so our retention rate, we ended up having 8 out of 10 people did
that's good.
complete, which is actually, way better than 10, 20, which is what most of the other districts. But the other recommendation that I have that our team and Jeffrey can talk about this too, is like, this really is a way to get people to that. We would love to find ways to support, Sharday and Taft and other people on the team who are now interested in being able to be community advocates for this. So like, how do we take this momentum that we've created and not just have it stop with the one class? So.
And I was wondering, like, how much interaction there was between the 8 people, or that started with 10, ended with 8, but you said there was like weekly meetings, or what were the opportunities for everyone to interact and share like what they were learning and what they were doing?
Well, so we had weekly Zoom meetings where I would do like I'm talking at you, and then we'd have a discussion. But one of the things that we also did though was we wanted to balance people who, having it be something that someone could do even if they couldn't necessarily commit to making the weekly meeting. So people who came to the weekly meetings got way more out of it from the discussion part, but also, we had somebody who worked on Monday nights and was able to watch the video recording and participate, even though she wasn't able to come to the class. But yeah, so we usually had about 3 to 4 of our people coming to the discussions, but we would make all the materials also available to everybody. I don't know if Taft or Sharday want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so with the meetings that she didn't, we still had like the breakout rooms where we were able to actually engage in conversation sometimes too. I don't think that part of the class was actually recorded, which was a good thing, because sometimes certain things were shared that we really want to have on YouTube. But it was really nice to engage every week with like Taft and Gina, Rhonda, Caleb, and Beth, Ellie, just to see like, we could see each other's well, we couldn't see each other's all the time. Some people would post in the group me their data sheets, but sometimes you know, just knowing that, oh, you had how much waste this week, or I had that much waste this week, well, guess what I learned this week, or, you know, we were able to share like different ideas that we found online as well, because I think I shared a couple of things within the group of things I found online, like randomly that just popped up on Instagram, and it was just good to see that other people were trying, they were actually trying out the same thing I was trying out, and what their success rate was as well. So I think it was really good to have the peer-to-peer engagement and conversation, and you know, actually putting faces with the names and voices when we all met up on the field trip at Lederer. That was good as well.
I think
Actually,
that social interaction makes people more accountable too. You feel like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta complete this, because it's like you're on a team and you don't want to let everyone down, right?
Right. Yeah. And knowing that, like, so if I even with me having my kids, I knew that if I didn't make a meeting or something, like, well, not if I didn't make a meeting, I tried to make the meetings as much as possible, because I knew that it was only going to really be like me, Taff, and Gina on the meeting, on the call for the most part, because we were the ones that showed up every week consistently on a consistent basis. So it was like, you know, I wonder what idea Taff going to have this week, or I wonder what Gina's going to say this week, you know, like that. So it was really interesting for me to engage in it.
And it was really great when people started talking to each other on the group me. So group me is like WhatsApp, you know, it was a group texting app. And so like Sade would share tips, Taft shared some tips, and yeah, so it wasn't just the weekly Zoom call, it was also kind of throughout the week, like sharing little, hey, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, and then we could also get the links from the classroom meetings as well. Don't forget that, because sometimes, you know, Beth would talk during the meeting. She would tell us, Ellie would post it in the chat, but then I would forget to write it down. But I know I can go on group me, and then I can see it there and click on the links or save them. So it was pretty cool to be able to do that as well. And the people that didn't show up to the meetings on Mondays because they had to work or whatever, they were actually able to engage in conversations with us and share their ideas as well.
Thanks so much. Thanks to Sade and Taff for joining us and sharing those, and to Beth and Jeffrey for all their work in making this project happen. Oh, and thanks for Beth just put in the link, summary of the project in the chat. I think Beth or Sade or Taft, any other last thoughts?
I'll just say it was really fun. This was like my most fun summer project thing that I could have done. So I completely enjoyed it. Thanks to Jeffrey for making it possible, and Caroline for making it possible, and Sade and Taft. It was like just really fun to get to know you guys, and this will not be the end. You're gonna come with me to more of these things.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it. It was a good opportunity to meet and network with new people as well, because it was just like Taft's idea with the watermelon, to use the watermelon juice to drain it from the rind and to reduce his waste even further. That was mind blowing, because I would have never thought of something like that.
Awesome. Well, we have we've saved some time just to hear some other updates, if there's any updates on the call. And then I think we'll be able to send folks out into the world to both enjoy this and make the most of outreach for Food Recovery Week. So does anyone have any other updates they want to share? Jeffrey, do you have any updates on the advocacy side that you wanted to give today? I haven't heard anything about any other updates, so I will just prompt a few, but no pressure to share. Just want to make sure we have space for them.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. I had getting ready to space on that. I think everyone knows the zero waste bill hearing should be coming up. I don't know if it's been scheduled, but we want to track that. And then as far as handling waste, there is a public works roundtable. So the council is holding a roundtable for DPW around waste, and that's going to be, I think it's the 9th of October. I'll look up after I'm done speaking. I'll pull up the email and put the date into the chat for people to see. So that's engaging around DPW. There's yeah, and we need to follow up on the tax incentives. We still don't know if that's going to be extended. And there's something else. So if I figure out what that other something else was, I'll chime in then. Thanks, Caroline.
Awesome, thank you. And I know that we've had, Kate had to hop off. I think the other, Josh, if you're still with us, wondering if you have any updates. I know there was some news about the rec centers and that process of opening. Does that change the compost cooperatives, or do you have any updates on the operations?
Not so much. I mean, we've been lucky that the urban ag, all of our urban ag projects have been considered essential. So you know, most of the gardens and farms have stayed open, and some of the compost cooperatives, it was tough because, I mean, they were able to stay open, but they weren't allowed to have, you know, group events to actually process the compost, so many of them shut down. But since then, you know, we've allowed to do, you know, social distance, mask wearing, group events, and things like that. So, as you know, all of them should, for the most part, be back open right now. And if people are looking to join, I'm actually going to be teaching for that DC Food Recovery Week. I'll be teaching a cooperative training where people can join. It's an hour training, and then you can join any of the cooperatives around the city.
And on that note too, Josh, Howard was probably going to say this, but he said he can't talk right now, but there's the home composting program is offering free workshops. So district residents can join these backyard hot composting classes that are being offered October 14th, October 28th, and November 7th. They're about 2 hours. They're all virtual. And if you take the class, you can qualify for a rebate up to $75 towards the purchase of like a bin or a tumbler or other kind of composting system. So I'm sure Howard was going to say that if he could, but we sent that email out.
The teachers are the Institute of Local Self-Reliance are teaching it, and it's all focused on like different like worm bins and tumblers and stuff that you know, you can do at home. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the three I mentioned were all backyard, and then they say they're going to have vermicomposting workshops in the winter. They haven't posted the dates yet, but I'll put that in the chat. And oh, there you go.
I did attend one of the vermicomposting trainings, and it was great. Oh, and Howard's other update is related to the East River Compost Stewards, which has been extended, which there are 5 stewards this year, which is awesome. If you haven't read about the East River Compost Stewards program that Howard's been running, it is well worth it. And I am hoping to be able to be hearing more from Howard about that program in the next fiscal year, at least sometime later this year, early next year, because I think it's a really inspiring program. I know lots of other cities are excited about learning more. So thanks for those typed updates.
Caroline, I have another, if I can piggyback on what I started with before we switch. Yeah, so 2 things. One was the stewards were actually helpful in this DOEE contract that Beth was talking about to start up the system at the ARC. So it actually is a great resource for Ward 7, Ward 8. But the advocacy updates were 2. We're working with Councilmember White's staff to put together a suggestion for putting on-site composting at the DC public schools, for coordinating with DGS to make something like that happen. They were looking for a one-pager that they can push for adding legislation to make that happen in this cycle this fall. So if there's some folks who want to more information about that or want to participate with that, let me or Jackie know. She's been a great help with this as well. The second thing was last month was the Metropolitan Washington COG, so the Council of Governments meeting. The recycling committee met, and once a year in September, they historically do a compost focused meeting. And during that meeting, there was the compost site in Virginia over Manassas area, Ballsford Road. The person who's been putting that together talked about it and its updates and its new status. Its big construction is coming. Its grand opening is starting. And then I talked about on-site composting opportunities. And then Ben Perry from Compost Crew talked about opportunities. But there was, well, first I want to thank Lindsay Smith for pulling us together and making that happen. But there's been some follow-on interest for doing tours of these different locations. So if there's anyone in this call who wants to participate in that, let me know, and I can include you on the distribution list. And that's it. Thanks.
All right, thanks so much, Jeffrey. I think that is, let's see, just make space. Jackie, did you have anything you wanted to share or update what's going on in your work and world? Oh, we can't hear you. Not muted, might be a headphone thing. It is, yeah, no worries. In the meantime, Jackie, I'm gonna give my update, which is we are working on a program specifically in the coming year looking at restaurants, DOEE, DCRA, ABRA, which handles alcohol, and Nightlife are doing a lot of trainings for restaurants specifically around adapting to this time. So really looking to incorporate more what the Food Recovery Working Group has done into those trainings. Howard and DPW Office of Waste Diversion have been working on training health inspectors and getting updates to that. So we're really excited about that. I think that's one of the big things that as our business team at DOEE starts to focus a number of work around restaurants, I'm hoping to incorporate more food waste into that. And yeah, I can also update from Rachel that Rachel's baby is adorable, and that she is still somehow posting to eat or toss. So if you are interested, actually I'll post it to this group just because, if you are interested in doing a food recovered meal for Rachel and baby Jay, I'm sure she would appreciate it. So that is also because I'm thinking about sort of the future of Rescue Dish, and that's something that I'm really interested in seeing what that would look like to offer as the way to be promoting restaurants right now in partnership with the other agencies that are really focused on restaurants as the, a huge part of our economy. So, oh, and Howard can talk now. So Howard, I would love to give you, and then Jackie, I've got you on deck. Howard, over to you.
Yeah, Caroline, sorry, I'm kind of out in the field a little bit. I just want to mention the food waste drop-off at Kelly Miller on Tuesdays is now going to be on Wednesdays from 6 to 3. So we're going to do an evening food waste drop-off Tuesdays at Kelly Miller, doing the Kelly Miller CSA Farmers Market. That's in the evening from 6 to 3. 3 to 6. And I think that's it. Thanks.
That's awesome. And I think that that's a really incredible example, Howard, of really thinking about how we can be offering multiple services at the same time, tying back into what Beth Taft and Charday were saying. So thinking about food access points as also food waste drop-off points. So really excited about the Kelly Miller drop-off. Jackie.
Just one additional announcement. I think most everything else has already been mentioned. But DC Central Kitchen has not been able to participate in gleaning this year as we typically do during the summer months. But another contact that we had through AFAC, but they're kind of a rogue gleaning group. They have a gleaning opportunity. If anyone is interested, it's going to be next Friday on the 9th, and I can post the contacts information here in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me too if you have any questions. There will be masks, everyone's wearing gloves, and they have been doing this for most summer months. So I think they have some pretty good safety protocols in place. But if anyone feels comfortable, I think that they have a whole lot of squash out in Beltsville that they're trying to collect and then distribute it to food banks and DC Central Kitchen in the coming weeks. So reach out if you're interested. Thank you.
Jackie, I don't know if you want to do this, but you're welcome to send a blurb to the whole DC Food Recovery Working Group, or you can send it to me or Josh or something and we'll forward it on. If you're looking for more volunteers, it's about 300 people in the working group, Google group. So it depends if you want to do that kind of outreach, but if you want to send a blurb, we can do that.
They could really use the help. I actually tried to send a blurb and it bounced back at me. So I know our contact PUN is going to be sending something over to Josh. He's in the loop. And okay. Josh, feel free to distribute it. They only had 4 people show up for the first round, so they could really use some help. Thank you.
I kind of have a random question that I feel like somebody on this call is going to know. Can I throw it out there? It's not 100% related to food waste, but what is going on with like takeout containers in DC right now? And I'm just wondering, because obviously like a lot more people are doing takeout and delivery, and we used to get them in like the compostable clamshells and now we're getting all plastic. I'm also just really annoyed because I keep getting cutlery even when I indicate I don't want cutlery. And so I'm just kind of wondering, like, what's supposed to be happening? Are things on hold because of COVID? Like, does anybody on the line know? Caroline, do you know?
I don't know, but it is a great question for me to dig into. Howard? I don't know whether you are.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the plastic clamshells are recyclable. That is the only thing I would, could say. We're still taking those, so please like rinse them and continue to recycle them. Really, I think DOEE does like the enforcement, right, Caroline, for those food service packaging.
Yeah, that's right.
And there may be a hotline, Claudia, that you can like notify them that someone's like continually sending to you like the little small items when you don't want to, but I don't know if that's like a fine or anything.
No, I was just more thinking like that. I'm sorry, I'm like having a hard time remembering, but pre-COVID, like they were all supposed to be using was it either recyclable or compostable clamshells?
Yes, recyclable or compostable. So
but
long
now,
as it's
like,
recyclable.
I'm basically getting just those like black ones with the clear lids, which I guess are recyclable too, but are those?
Those are,
Okay.
but they are just a little harder to clean, I would say, than like the white ones are a lot easier to clean.
I guess I was just wondering, I thought at one point all the clamshells were supposed to be compostable.
They don't have to be compostable. It was just
they
like
just can't be styrofoam.
Oh, okay,
no foam.
okay.
Right.
So a lot of people, when they couldn't do styrofoam anymore, moved to compostable, but they're totally allowed to do anything except for styrofoam. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure, because I feel like a lot of places that used to do compostable are just doing the like plastic ones now, like the black, with the clear lid.
And that could be it might be a less a price thing to them.
Yeah.
Could be why they make the switch.
And why am I blanking on it? the Save Good Food or the Zero Waste Omnibus Bill, does that address some of these like takeout containers and cutlery? I think it does, right?
I think it does, at least from the cutlery standpoint. I'm not sure where the containers land, but the cutlery, yes.
I can speak a little bit to it. You mentioned the point about getting a bunch of utensils and items that you don't request in delivery or takeout. So the zero waste bill had a language saying that providers are not supposed to do that unless those items are requested.
You'd actually have to, the default would not be to provide them.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless requested.
That's what the default should be now, but I'm really glad that bill will deal with that.
Well, only if we can make sure the language isn't watered down, and that's in jeopardy. So we're going to have to have our voices heard, because one thing that did got watered down is what Howard mentioned. And the bill back in last year, I think November, December, when it was released, it had language in saying that to-go cutlery, if it was provided, would have to be compostable. That language, I understand, will be removed. So there's already been pressure to water down the bill. So if we want to keep the language that's in there, we're going to have to speak up and have our voices heard. So I know
just drowning in plastic cutlery, and I have a really hard time believing that the vast majority of people who are getting food delivered at home probably have one fork and one knife. You know what I mean? So it's like, what is the need for cutlery to be delivered when food's being delivered at home? I just think it's probably such a small portion of people who like don't have cutlery at home. But I don't know. I mean, I might be wrong about that. I can't believe the default is to just provide them, because I think everybody I know is just drowning in plastic cutlery that they didn't want.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm glad that's in the bill, and I'm happy to help support it.
And then the second was making the cutlery compostable. And the third was, if you provide to-go containers, there was language that restaurant would also have to provide composting capacity. And
right.
I don't know if that language is going to stay in or not. I hear that's in jeopardy of not staying. So if we want it, we're going to need to have our voices heard.
And you're going to keep us up to date on the opportunities for that?
Yes. Yeah. And thanks for the reminder about sending it to the broader group. I'll do that in the future.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. I just wanted to butt in for a second. I overheard we were talking about recycling. Within a group, I shared a link, and they were talking about pretty much how recycling is basically a scam. Like they're not really recycling. Like it costs too much to recycle, and it doesn't make a decent product, a decent quality product as far as recycling go. Like recycling is, they're not really recycling. I shared the article within our group. I'm not sure if Beth can share the link with y'all or something, but
We could share from our zero waste site what happens to our recycling in DC. So I think, Caroline, you probably have that link to the.
Totally, I will. I'll put it in the chat. Taft, I hear people are concerned, and I think that it is important to know that in DC, recycling is recycled. And yes, I definitely have seen this article, as well as a really incredible podcast from Throughline about the history of litter and recycling. And recycling, like thinking, what I'll say is just thinking about it like as you did with food waste, thinking about our plastic from a refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. In really, as cheesy as it sounds, it does apply both to plastic and to food. And to energy, like really thinking about and consumption in general. So, but I will put in the chat, the Zero Waste DC website has some incredible information about where our recycling goes, and that the trucks that are collecting our recyclables are collecting them separately. And so, but it's good to put a critical lens to it, and to make sure that we continue recycling effectively here. I'll definitely keep everyone posted on the serviceware side of things. I think there's been a lot of misinformation. Bag fees are still in place. The straw ban is still in place. And it really is a question of like both the role that plastics are playing now and the way that our waste stream has shifted during COVID. Which on a very uplifting note, this feels like a moment for us to like wrap for today. I'm gonna put in the chat, actually, I'm gonna make a hyperlink to that zero waste. Claudia, can you put in the link to the Food Recovery Week as well? And then, oh, did this work? Nope. I'm gonna put in this recycling link. And I hope to see everyone at some of the events during DMV Food Recovery Week. And I hope that you have a fabulous weekend and a great Food Recovery Week when that comes.
Hi, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks all.
Bye.
Okay, everyone, have a nice one.
Thanks
You
so
too.
much.
Well run, Caroline. Thanks.
Have a
Doing
good
what I
weekend,
can.
everyone.
Yeah, take care. Bye. Claudia, oh.